Thank you, Honourable Member. I now recognize Honourable E.L. Powell.
Chairperson, let me begin by extending the DA's heartfelt condolences to the family of the office head of the Gift of the Givers in Gaza, Mr. Ahmed Abisi. The DA once again reiterates its call for civilians to be shielded from collective punishment and for international humanitarian law and the protocols of the Geneva Convention to be upheld. The DA calls for an immediate investigation into the killing of Mr. Abasi and that those responsible are brought to justice. It is for this very reason that it is vital for South Africa to retain diplomatic channels with both Israel and the Palestinian Authority. The ANC's decision to withdraw diplomats from Tel Aviv and the EFF's proposed expulsion of the Israeli ambassador will diminish our country's ability to demand accountability in the region and to influence a swift and peaceful resolution to this war. Sadly, honourable members, in the face of this brutal war, the political opportunism on display by both the ANC and the EFF is indicative of their inherent moral bankruptcy. Having failed to build a prosperous South Africa, these parties must now look for any opportunity to deepen divisions from which they can score cheap political points. This is why when the ANC and their proxies look to Gaza, they do not see human tragedy. Rather, they see political opportunity. So long as their performative sanctimony is convincing enough to temporarily distract the nation from their failure as our government, they could not care less how many more Palestinians have to die. Honourable members, the ANC are not peace brokers, they are agent provocateurs. They do not care about international law or human rights. They care only for their own political survival at whatever cost. If the ANC were genuinely interested in peace, human rights, and the rule of law, they would have spoken out against the unspeakable tragedy currently unfolding in Sudan, where more than 10,000 civilians have been killed amidst some of the most brutal ethnic cleansing the world has witnessed in a generation. They would have stood up for the 7 million Sudanese people, 3 million of them children, who have fled into neighboring countries seeking refuge from the violence and now comprise the largest displaced population of children in the world. But despite the gravity of this tragedy unfolding on the African continent, the ANC has not only remained silent, but has actively worked against advancing peace in the region.
A point of order, Madam Chairperson. Point of order. Chairperson, may I please proceed?
It looks like the chairperson has disappeared. You can proceed, Honorable Ndlozi.
Disconnected.
Thanks, Chair. I think that the rules are very clear
There's
about
no chair at
relevance.
the moment. There's no chair at the moment. I think you should wait.
Yeah, but there's a point of relevance. We are speaking about Palestine and the Israeli conflict. We are not speaking about
right now.
Continue.
You're
not speaking about
recognized.
no, you are not the chair. That are raging elsewhere in the world. That is the point of relevance. This honorable member is irrelevant.
Honourable Ntonzi.
Oh, you are back, Chairperson.
No, but you can't take that opportunity.
So Chair, but I was waiting.
No, stop
and
it.
people started howling at me.
No, Honourable Ntonzi, please.
Somebody gave him permission to proceed. I don't know who that person was.
Yes,
yeah, so why is the chairperson now talking about an order on me? Because somebody said I must proceed.
No, you can't proceed. Did you raise it? Okay, that's fine. Now
yes, he raised the point of order,
is in order.
He did raise a point of order.
He did. Okay. Honourable Ntonzi, it's humane for me to apologize because the system kicked me out. I think it's proper for me to do that. And request Honourable Powell to proceed.
What about my point of order?
My timer was at 2 minutes and 47.
Honourable Powell, there is another point of order. Honourable Khader. There is a point of order. Somebody here. I thought it's Khader because I have already
apologized. Is not finished with the point of order, Chairperson.
Okay, but I was apologizing to him. I thought he would still come in. That's fine. Let's allow him to do so. Dr. Ndlozi,
yes, Chair. Thanks, Chair. I'm sorry the system kicked you out and I have to repeat this. The rules are very clear about us discussing a relevant topic on the table. We're talking about Palestine and a motion in relation to the expulsion of Israel. And the honorable member is speaking about the Sudan. I mean, what would happen if we allow other people to also come speak about gangsterism in Cape Town, other people to come speak about other conflicts? We must stick to the topic on the table.
Thank you, Honorable Ndlozi, the relevance of the point you are raising. However, we can't dictate what the member opts to talk to. Let's allow her to finish. Honorable Powell, you may proceed.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to confirm my time. I stopped my timer at 2 minutes and 47, and I will now resume. But
no,
despite
the table will help me.
But despite the gravity of this tragedy unfolding on the African continent, the ANC has not only remained entirely silent, but has actively worked against advancing peace in that region. On the 11th of October, South Africa abstained from a resolution at the United Nations Human Rights Council calling for an immediate ceasefire in Sudan. Why? Because the same resolution called for the establishment of an international fact-finding mission to investigate the root cause of the current conflict, much of which can be traced back to the ANC's failure to arrest Sudanese dictator Omar al-Bashir when he visited South Africa in 2015, despite a warrant from the ICC. The reign of terror dispensed by the paramilitary forces deployed by Bashir during the war is estimated to have killed more than 300,000 civilians. Instead of arresting their ringleader, the ANC turned a blind eye as Bashir fled by helicopter. And so, as has become their custom, when more than 1,300 Sudanese civilians were butchered in West Darfur last week, the ANC looked the other way. Honourable members, if the ANC were genuinely interested in advancing a human rights-based agenda, our foreign minister would not be fraternizing with Iranian President Raisi, whose own government has ordered the execution of more than 1,200 of their civilians since August 2021. The honourable minister would not have telephoned and pledged her support to the leader of Hamas, who has not had a democratic mandate in Palestine since 2006. And in this process, she has sidelined the Palestinian Authority and the millions of Palestinians who want nothing to do with Hamas. If the ANC cared about human rights or international law, they would not have remained silent in the face of Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine, and the South African Defense Forces would not have been deployed to play war games while Putin's army continued to kill innocent civilians in Bakhmut. The truth is that the ANC is only interested in inflaming divisions to score political points. And make no mistake, over the graves of Gaza, the ANC have spotted an opportunity and their misinformation machine is now moving ahead full throttle. The ANC Secretary General seems to have forgotten that it was under his party's watch that more than 27,000 of our own citizens were murdered last year, and on his watch that our national rail collapsed and that our unemployment rate soared to 42%. Mbalula and his proxies may have forgotten, but the people of this nation remember. We see you, and we will continue to expose you for the hypocrites you are. In conclusion, Chairperson, let me be clear. Despite the constant stream of manufactured propaganda, the DA will continue to stand firm on principle. We will continue to speak out against radicalism, hatred, and tyranny. And we will continue to call for the protection of innocent civilians and for the right of both Palestinians and Israelis to sovereignty, statehood, and security.
I now recognize Honorable Shlengwa M. Shlengwa. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chairperson. The IFP notes the EFF resolution on the removal of the Israeli embassy in South Africa and the suspension of all diplomatic relations with Israel. At the outset, the IFP condemns the continued violent acts of war in Israel and Palestine, which have had an adverse and untenable effect on civilians, especially women and children. The war must stop. As the IFP, we have stated in this House, and today we reiterate that we do not believe that cutting diplomatic ties with Israel is the best course of action as relates to the current conflict between Israel and Palestine. I therefore wish to reiterate what we said last week in this House, that isolationism in a time of war is not a solution. It is tantamount to running away. Recalling ambassadors or removing ambassadors amounts to regressive diplomacy. It is counterproductive to the clarion call for peace and negotiation. How can South Africa possibly contribute towards the Middle East peace process through mediation efforts if we have expelled one of the parties to the said negotiations from our shores? Diplomacy is not only the profession, activity, or skill of managing international relations, but can also refer to the art of dealing with people in a sensitive and tactful way. Both apply in this situation. The Israeli-Palestine conflict would not be solved by forcefully silencing one of the parties. On the international stage, South Africa has positioned itself to be a country that believes in equality and democracy and negotiations. Therefore, all voices need to be given an equal opportunity to state their case to resolve this conflict. While the IFP is in full support with the EFF on the portion of the resolution which condemns the killing of defenseless children and women in Gaza, no mention is made of the 1,200 Israeli citizens who were killed on October 7 when Hamas attacked Israel. Many of these Israelis were unarmed civilians, including women and children. It is important to note, therefore, that war is never one-sided. As a party that champions nonviolence, the IFP is of the view that brute force and armed aggression and the bloodshed are never the solution to any dispute, no matter what the circumstances. We therefore reiterate our call for peace and an immediate cessation of hostilities and an end to the violence, and ensuring that humanitarian aid reaches all those that are affected, particularly in Palestine. We call for Israel to restrain itself and to come to the negotiating table, as we want Palestine at that table and Hamas. As regards to the Israeli-Palestinian land question, the IFP continues to advocate for a two-state solution for Israel and Palestine, as we believe that this is key to peace, justice, and stability in the Middle East. This will require both sides to make concessions in the service of the greater good and the ultimate realization of peace in the region. We will further continue to call on all parties to come to the negotiating table and to declare an immediate ceasefire. I thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now recognize Honorable Dr. C.P. Mudla. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Colleagues, good afternoon. The ANC today is again in a rather difficult position, and it reminds me of what we saw a few years ago when the EFF took the initiative when it came to the question of expropriation without compensation. It was the EFF that brought a motion to Parliament, and then the ANC had to follow. Now we've got the same situation today where the EFF takes the initiative and the ANC will have to follow. I listened very carefully to the Honourable Deputy Minister Mashego Dlamini, and I heard her say that the ANC is currently discussing this and they will have to take a decision one way or the other. Well, fact of the matter is that this resolution will be before the House on Tuesday next week, and then we will have to vote on that motion. So the ANC has got until Tuesday next week to decide what their position is going to be. The fact of the matter is that if you expel the Israeli ambassador and cut all diplomatic ties with Israel, South Africa will not be in a position to play any role whatsoever in terms of any mediation or any chance to try and play a constructive and a positive role to bring this conflict to an end. However, it's interesting to note that not one Arab country that currently does have diplomatic ties with Israel, Egypt, Jordan, Morocco, the United Arab Emirates, not one of them have severed any diplomatic ties with Israel despite what is currently going on. The Honourable Deputy Minister mentioned the fact that Palestine is entitled to her own homeland, and we all agree with that. But the fact of the matter is that since 1937, 6 such offers for an independent Palestinian homeland was made to the Palestinians, and they were all rejected. It is alleged that during the recent Islamic Arab Summit, that Algeria proposed that all diplomatic ties should be cut with Israel and everything should be cut in that instance. But that proposal was blocked by Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Jordan, Egypt, Bahrain, Sudan, Morocco, Mauritania, and Djibouti. They were not prepared to do that, and South Africa should think very carefully before we go into that kind of approach. The Honourable Minister said, the Deputy Minister said that at the moment the ANC is considering their options, but it may have implications for South Africa's representation in Ramallah. I can assist the Honourable Minister. It's not a question that it may have implications. It will definitely have implications. Let me try to explain to the House. At the moment, our people that represent South Africa in Ramallah, 6 diplomats, all stay in Israel. They stay in Jerusalem and around those areas. And they have diplomatic immunity from Israel to do their jobs in Ramallah. If South Africa cuts all diplomatic ties with Israel, that will come to an end. Currently, those diplomats that represent South Africa in Ramallah and the Palestinian side and the West Bank, they fly into Ben Gurion Airport and then they travel to Ramallah, and that is where they work, but they don't stay there. The diplomatic ties are cut. They will no longer be allowed to fly into Ben Gurion Airport. They will have to fly to Jordan. They will no longer be able to stay in Israel. They will have to stay in Ramallah, but first of all, they will have to enter the West Bank from Jordan across a bridge which is controlled by Israel, and it's most unlikely that they will be allowed to enter West Bank. So South African government must understand that if they take these steps, it will have definite, direct implications for South Africa's representation in Ramallah. The fact of the matter is that we must understand that very clearly. Israel is not that dependent on South Africa's relationship. We can learn more from Israel in terms of Israeli products, etc. At the moment, lists are going around with Israeli products that should be boycotted and Israeli companies. But I'm still waiting for the alternative list of Palestinian products and companies that we should support. I haven't seen those. It would be a short-sighted decision by the South African government. It's opportunistic from the EFF, and we'll see on Tuesday if the South African government does the right thing and continue with diplomatic attempts to solve this problem. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. I now recognize Honorable Ref K. R.J. Moshwe, and I can see you are having breakfast there, you are having tea, Mruti. Over to you, sir.
We have national doubt. You cannot tell us who to support and who not to support. We have a right to support anyone.
Honorable Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
I'm sorry, Presiding Officer, I'm sorry.
Let's start the draw, Chairperson.
Yes, I'm recognizing you, sir.
All right. On behalf of the African Christian Democratic Party, I hereby wish to reject the EFF motion in the name of Mr. J.S. Malema that we are debating today. The ACDP totally rejects this dangerous motion because it is full of lies, inaccuracies, and deceptions. To label Israel as an apartheid state is a lie that was coined by haters of Israel. Furthermore, to insinuate that Israel does not own land they are living on is another lie that the ACDP rejects. It is only the enemies of Israel, the ignorant, and the people who are allergic to truth, who stubbornly refuse to accept the fact that the land the Israelis are living on was given by God to Abraham and his descendants long before the existence of Christianity and Islam. The ACDP rejects the EFF's call to government to close the Israeli embassy in South Africa and suspend all diplomatic relations with Israel. The EFF is ignorant of the fact that South Africa needs Israel much more than Israel needs South Africa. The EFF and the ANC must stop being hypocrites and accept the fact that South Africa has many needs and Israel has the expertise to meet them in areas such as healthcare, innovation, technology, agriculture, and economic growth. Without Israel, we risk diplomatic tensions that can hinder communication channels for addressing regional issues and ending business collaborations that would reduce economic opportunities, trade, investments, and job creation. It is hypocritical for Mr. Malema and the EFF to accuse Israel of killing defenseless children and women in Gaza when they know that Hamas, their brutal friend, is using women as human shields. The ACDP wants to know when is the EFF and ANC going to start wearing scarves in solidarity with South African families whose loved ones are killed daily in this country. The wearing of Palestinian scarves when they come to Parliament highlights the fact that they love haters of Israel much more than they care for their own people here at home. In conclusion, Rabbi Jonathan Kahn reminded us the other day that in the book of Jeremiah, God said, and I quote, "As long as the sun and stars of heaven remain in the sky, so long as the order of the cosmos is in place, the Jewish people will remain a nation before him," close quote. He further said, "The enemy has raged against the children of Israel for thousands of years. The pharaohs tried to destroy them. Assyria tried to wipe them out. Babylon tried to smash them. Rome tried to eliminate them. The Nazis tried to annihilate them. But the nation of Israel still lives because the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is alive. Am Yisrael Chai."